up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Gaming Without Parole.
Hello.
Sitting across from me this week, as always, Desra.
And sitting across from me is Brian Paul.
Hi.
So happy Halloween.
Oh, no. This is weeks after Halloween.
No, but it's still the best time of year, so I'm going to ride that high as long as I can.
That's true. We hope you enjoyed the scary game episodes we put out. Those were some of my favorites to do.
I think some of my favorite games. I'm still actually replaying Limbo still.
Awesome.
It's just a fun game.
And it was funny, as I was going through and editing all that and compiling everything I had to do, I couldn't stop thinking about all the games we missed. And I don't want to wait till next year to do part 3. So maybe we'll do a Nightmare Before Christmas.
Ooh, I like that.
Part 3
That's
episode.
New Year's hangover. But yeah.
I like it.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll do a bunch of crap.
This is probably a meeting we should be having off camera.
Damn it. Well, Des, we have a lot of great stuff to talk about today.
Yes.
Picking up sort of after our LucasArts episodes, we have a lot of things to talk about from Double Fine Productions.
And this is like, if any of these episodes come from like my love of something, this is it. I have a deep and burning passion for Double Fine games. The last great LucasArts game was Grim Fandango. Which actually launched the team that worked on that, led by Tim Schafer, ended up leaving LucasArts when that whole kind of gaming collapsed, and founded Double Fine Productions. These folks, I mean, with Grim Fandango and with another game we'll talk about later today, those are two of my top 5 favorite games of all time. Yeah. There's not every game is the same, and in fact, that's kind of one of their sort of mottos is like every game should be different. Yeah. But there's a thread of creativity, and you can look at a game and say, "Oh, this is a Double Fine game," and that's something I really respect. A creativity, uniqueness to publisher. That's the word.
And development.
Yes.
Yeah, because I mean, we could talk about the games they've published, but it's more about the development.
The development, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I was actually looking at a game called something weird, GNOC or something for VR, and it's like they did it in collaboration with Double Fine. I was like, that's not going to make any sense here.
Yeah.
I want this to be games that came from the minds of these great people.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's funny because you said you can look at a game and say, this is a Double Fine game. But it's so funny that, I feel like I know Double Fine pretty well, but when I actually dove in and looked at all the games they created, the first thing I thought of was diversity. So even though you can say this is a Double Fine game, none of them are the same.
No, not at all. And there's, in some of the earlier games, you can kind of look at Psychonauts and Brutal Legend and say, okay, there's some kind of there's some kind of graphical continuity there. Yeah. But other than that, your gameplay styles, your art styles, they're very, very different. But throughout, there's I don't know, there's certain.
Je ne sais quoi.
I was trying to avoid saying that desperately,
yep.
But yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah. There's a sense of humor, a little bit of a twist to your standard tropes that comes from them, and just we love Double Fine. The first game I wanted to talk about, which kind of it's not my absolute favorite Double Fine game, but I think it sort of leads to some nice discussion, is Brutal Legend.
Yes.
This is, it was one of those ones I'd heard about. And it was I want to check that out for this episode specifically. I had never actually played it before we started talking about doing this episode.
Really?
I'd seen demos and I want to check that out someday. And I fired it up and just big stupid grin on my face from the second it started.
Yeah.
If you ever wanted to look at a heavy metal album cover back when they used to have album art and say, what would it be like to live in that world? This is it. You look at the Iron Maiden album cover and just say, wow, that death and monstrosity and chrome and this is it. The main character is Eddie Riggs. He's a roadie, which right off the bat is an awesome idea for a character, and he's played by Jack Black,
which I don't love so much, but I'm okay with it.
Well, and here's the thing, I was thinking about that. There's two types of people in the world: people who like Jack Black and people who don't, and that's what I was going to lead with. But then I realized, actually, I love Jack Black when he's allowed to be Jack Black.
Okay.
When he's in Kung Fu Pan and all these things where he's got to be the sort of dumbed down, kind of family friendly with Jack Black.
School of Rock.
School of Rock is actually, it's interesting you mentioned that. Tim Schafer was inspired by School of Rock to take this Brutal Legend idea, which he's had pretty much since high school, and create the game we know.
Okay.
In fact, originally Eddie Riggs was based on Jack Black. but they weren't going to get Jack Black because there's no way they could get that Hollywood person. Long story short, Jack Black eventually hears about it, and they find out, oh, Jack Black actually loves metal, he loves gaming, and he wanted to get in, which actually started the ball rolling. So you end up with this game that has Lita Ford, Rob Halford, Ozzy Osbourne, Lemmy. I'm going for Lemmy. All right. In fact, I feel really upset because my Motorhead shirt was actually in the wash.
Oh, no.
And I couldn't wear it today, which is probably the least metal sentence ever said. Like, my Motorhead shirt was dirty, so I couldn't wear it. But, oh well, deal with it. And then we also got some Tim Curry. Kyle Gass was in it. Steve Agee, Brian Posehn, Will Wheaton, just a huge voice talent. And that's one of the reasons you play this game.
Yeah.
I could rave on and on about it. It's funny, it's if you like Tenacious D.
Yep.
There we go. Do you like Tenacious D? Yes or no? If yes, okay. Well, not so much.
I'm trying not to interrupt. I've been told I don't have a sense of humor. I'm willing to accept that and move on.
Okay.
Yep.
So if you like humor and metal, you can't beat this. And the music soundtrack I had to write this down, 102 tracks by 75 different bands.
Wow.
And they didn't just like sign a licensing agreement. This was crazy. They didn't just sign a licensing agreement with BMI or whatever. Just pick up. They were like, we want this song by this band. Let's find the band and get permission from the band. In some cases, bands that have broken up. Jeez. And they actually went and did the homework. And then to the point where, so I mentioned Lita Ford. She got involved. She was like, I love what you're doing. Let me rewrite one of my songs for you so it fits in the plot better.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's just crazy. That all being said, there's a couple problems. Number one, the production of Brutal Legend is one of the notorious stories in gaming history. You can look up the details yourself, but basically they had to put a brake on the development for a very long time. But they didn't just sit there and say, oh, well, everything sucks now, our game's not coming out. They created what they now look back and call the Amnesia Fortnight, which basically means Tim Schafer, who's the head of development, said, all right, stop what you're doing on this. They split the development team into 4 groups and said each one of them just come up with a different game, just some small game that we can, basically use our creative juices on. And maybe they'll get published, maybe they weren't. This is just more of an exercise so we don't fall apart and kill each other. That sounds like an interesting idea, but 4 games came from that. You may have heard of them. Costume Quest, Stacking, Iron Brigade, and weirdly enough, Sesame Street, Once Upon a Monster.
Aha.
We'll get to more of those later, but it's just interesting. These people are so creative and awesome. This huge game they're working on, they have to stop, and then suddenly, let's just come up with these other awesome things. So, very, very difficult production, which kind of leads to some of the other problems. As awesome as the setting is, and the story is, and the acting is, the gameplay itself is lacking.
Yeah.
It's an interesting idea, combining like action, sort of like third-person-y, hack and slash with real-time strategy. So you're running around, doing your stuff, sending your minions off, and the minions are hilarious. Like the headbangers, the first ones you meet, they just have these massive like muscles here because they're headbangers. But it's this weird mix of being very confusing and repetitive. So it's
I was all about third-person action platformer type games, and that's when I picked this game up. I was a little late onto getting a console that generation.
Yep.
I had picked up the PS3 when Batman Arkham Asylum came out, so I was looking for games that had been out for a bit, and this one was cheap, and I picked it up, and I kind of enjoyed it. I'm not love metal; it's not my thing, but it was Double Fine, and it was an action platformer to an extent, brawler a little bit, some driving parts, and then it became the real-time strategy game like a little bit in, and I was like, this isn't what I signed up for. So unfortunately, I've never seen that game through to completion because of that. I think a lot of people were misled, and it's maybe unfair to say false advertising, but it's like that's not the game I wanted to play,
and that's understandable. And I think I do like real-time strategy games, so I was kind of excited about that part. And I do like in the storyline, he's a roadie, he doesn't want to be the center of attention. He's the guy who gets stuff done. He's the guy who organizes things.
That's fair.
And so it plays into that, where he's he's not the guy leading the army. He's just the one telling the army where to go and getting everything. So that works. But yeah, it's very hard. I think if this had been a PC game, and you could they switch it a little more so you could do more like hotkey kind of things and all of that, I think it would have been a much better gaming experience. But yeah, you can definitely tell where here's where all creative passion went into, and then the actual gaming part of it sort of falls off the side.
Right. But you can find it for so cheap now, that if it sounds even remotely, mildly interesting to you, if this is your thing at all, if you just like Double Fine humor, or if you like metal music, or you just want to play a cool game that no one really talks about anymore, you can probably find it for about $5.
I would say if there is a Slayer album somewhere within 10 feet of you right now, you should play this game.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the games that came from the Amnesia, what is it called?
Amnesia Fortnite.
Amnesia Fortnite. One of the games that came from that is a game that I played immediately when it came out on PS3, and this was called Stacking.
Stacking. Sounds like a stacking. Woohoo! Is it? Yeah?
Huh?
I stacked my paper on the console.
Well,
see, stacking.
Nope.
Yay!
We win.
Now we're millionaires.
Trophy unlocked.
Yay.
Achievement unlocked. Trophy acquired.
Bing.
So this came out for.
You're gonna have to do that graphic now.
What's that?
You're gonna have to do that graphic now.
Nope. I'm not doing any extra editing. Nope. It's amazing we finally get to this episode at all.
That's true.
Yep. Stacking this is so strange. Absolutely strange. It's a game about Russian nesting dolls.
Okay.
If you're not familiar, these are the dolls that
Matryoshkas.
I'll fit in. What's that?
Matryoshkas, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
I was going to avoid saying it because I couldn't pronounce it correctly.
I probably didn't.
They are the little dolls that break open, and you can fit another doll inside of one, and usually another doll inside of that one, another doll inside of that one, and then you have one big doll that's got 8 little dolls inside of it. Yep. And that's sort of the premise of this game. You play as Charlie Blackmore, the smallest of all nesting dolls. and as far as I remember, he doesn't have any his own abilities.
Okay.
So what you do is you run around, and by run around I mean you kind of South Park around, right?
Weeble wobble.
Yep. And these environments they're beautiful. I remember at the time I was blown away by how nice these environments look. And every one you meet is another little Russian nesting doll.
Okay.
And the aesthetics are just beautiful. It's like the Great Depression and Victorian era smushed together, and anytime you see a cutscene, all the dolls talk to each other, but they're not talking. It's like a silent movie.
Okay.
And so they're and then it goes to that screen, and it has all the dialogue on it. And it cuts back and again. And, yep.
And even if I didn't notice Double Fine, just that description, that's probably a Double Fine game.
Absolutely. Yeah, it screams Double Fine. And so you play as Charlie Blackmore. You're the smallest doll, and you're out to rescue all of your kidnapped brothers and sisters. You have many. And the Baron, the story's not really important. It just gives you an excuse to run out into this world and play as one of these little dolls. Now, Charlie being the smallest doll, he can jump inside any doll that's one size bigger than him.
But only one size bigger.
Only one size bigger.
Okay.
And each of those dolls usually have a strange ability.
Okay.
Whether it be they can play a horn, or they can take photographs.
Okay.
Or they carry balloons. Whatever it is, each one has usually one ability.
Right.
And then you can jump into, with Charlie inside, that doll can jump into another doll that's one size bigger. And what you can do is you can start combining abilities to solve puzzles.
I like.
Absolutely. So if you have one that specializes in flatulence, and you have one that carries flowers, you can combine those two to fart.
Part flowers.
And smell like roses. Right? So you're creating a beautiful scent all around the environment. Now the great thing about the puzzles in this game, and I mean Double Fine's always been known for their puzzles, right? They're coming from LucasArts. It's got the graphic adventure roots. These puzzles are awesome, and they're almost clearly marked. They're here's another puzzle, here's another puzzle. And when you go and solve a puzzle, it says, that's great. That's one of 3 solutions.
Oh, that's cool.
And it just tells you straight out, you can solve this puzzle 2 more ways. So you go off and you play the game more, and you're like, I think I have an idea. And you come back, and then you solve it another way. And then you solve it another way.
I don't think I can play this game
It'll just
because I would be
absorb
like,
your life.
2 of 3. What's the third?
It gets frustrating.
That's great.
But so the weird thing is if you just blast through the game from beginning to end, you don't really care about getting all the solutions. 2 or 3 hours.
Oh wow, okay.
But you can spend a very, very, very long time.
I can imagine
running around this world. Yeah. It's just absolutely beautiful. Like the animation, like I said, the animation is, but there's something so awesome about it. Like it's a realistic fake movement, almost like stop motion or something like that. Okay. So the only thing else I have to say about this is that it's very open-ended. They don't. What I like about Double Fine is they very rarely make you do something you don't feel like doing. Like I said, there's multiple solutions to the puzzle.
Yep.
And then there's you kind of start off in this train station, and then there are 4 destinations you can go to from the train station.
Okay.
And you can just go. And in each of those locations, you find another one of your brothers or sisters to rescue. And so if you find like that you went to one place and you got real stuck and you can't solve any of the puzzles,
just stop and
go back to the train station, go somewhere else.
Yeah.
They really kind of gave you this, like, not open world, but might as well be.
Yeah.
To just kind of explore, and it's just a lot of fun.
I like that.
Yeah.
Nice. I would say that was one thing going back to Brutal Legend where it does kind of fall apart. It's sort of, it gives you the feeling like it's open world, but it's really very linear.
Very linear.
Which is kind of, all right, that's okay. But I guess that actually kind of brings me into and the reason I wanted to do this episode, Psychonauts.
Here we go.
This is one of my favorite games of all time, any genre, anywhere. I mean, this is, I talk about having Slayer within 10 feet of you. No matter where I live, no matter what system I have, I will have an ability to play Psychonauts. I guess we'll go plot-wise. You play as Raz, or Rasputin. Right off the bat, this is a game that speaks to me because he's someone who escapes from the circus. He runs away from the circus to go to summer camp. Now, if you don't know me, my first career, I was a summer camp program director, and my continuing career is I'm a magician and a circus performer. So it's just like, wow, these are my people. He has these psychic powers, and he wants to go to the summer camp where they train the next generation of psychonauts, who are specially trained government agents who have psychic abilities. So far, that sounds like it could be a fairly typical kind of game plot. I mean, there's the summer camp thing, which is a little odd.
And who runs away from the circus? People usually run away to join the circus. Right,
exactly. Man, it's just, this is a game where it really shows you what, I guess, we want to call it an action platformer, maybe.
Oh, it reeks of Jak and Daxter until you get into the game.
Yes. Yeah. So it starts where you're in the summer camp, this sort of open world environment. It's very Metroid-like in the fact that you gain abilities so you can go back and unlock different areas and so on. But the real level part is, as a psychonaut, you have the ability to jump into the brains of the people around you. And so the other outside levels of the game are actually experiencing all these different people's brains and solving their emotional baggage, which is, I didn't just pick that. That's actually something you're searching for in the game, their emotional baggage. So you can, have them defeat their fears or, join your side or whatever. Because you're going on all these different people's minds, every level is radically different and creative and unique. Yeah. One of my favorites, there's a mutated lungfish that lives in the lake at the summer camp. Just play it. No explanation is needed. You get into its brain, and it's like a Godzilla movie, but you're the monster, called Goggalore, because he's wearing these big goggles. And it just does all the tropes of, classic kaiju cinema, but it's with you as the monster. And, there's all the bad lip syncing, and like deliberately bad lip syncing. I mean, a lot of games have this problem. And the other, there's Fred Bonaparte, who thinks he's Napoleon's long-lost relative, and you end up inside his brain is he's playing a strategy board game against Napoleon. So you're walking around all these hexagonal tiles, and the people you're interacting with are the little meeples from the game, and that's great. And the ultimate is the Milkman conspiracy level. Oh, yeah. If there was a way to just chop this out and just play it as a game, I would just show this to everybody. I don't even know how to describe it. It's just look it up on YouTube. This is one thing where I will allow you to not play it and just watch someone else play it, because the level design is this weird, trippy, like 50s suburbia, but literally like the roads as you're walking down them will curve up and off into infinity, and because you're an action platformer, you need to jump and things, but if you jump too far, like the gravity over here will take you. And then the conspiracy, there's these figures in trench coats and hats who are trying to pretend to be like, you know, housewives and mailmen.
It's super trippy. It is a game that I did not get into until actually recently. I have to say that if you want to try this out, I'm going to say the easiest and best way to do it. If you got a PlayStation 4 around, they recently made it one of those PS2 on PS4 games. So it's sort of up-resed, and you can play it with trophies. It's phenomenal. It's absolutely the way to do it. I think it's $10, $15.
Yeah,
it's a great deal.
And here's the other thing. And what's a common theme with especially the early Double Fine games, huge critical success. Sold 100,000 copies.
Awful.
100,000 copies. Majesco, who was the publisher, originally, actually, it was supposed to be a Microsoft, not a launch title, but a premiere title for Microsoft. Yep. There was so much, again, behind-the-scenes drama. And it might sound like, oh, Double Fine must be hard to work with. It's not that. It's like, just these companies don't get what Double Fine does, so they give them all these notes, and Double Fine's like, no, you're like Brutal Legend, the metal of most metal games. One little thing I said when we're going to talk about the drama, Activision wanted them to make it a hip hop game. No, that's the type of disconnect that these. So, anyways, it was going to be Microsoft. Majesco picked it up after Psychonauts. Majesco got out of the video game business. That's how bad it was. Yeah,
really kind of brought them to their knees. And one thing we were saying earlier was that it's kind of cool that every time something bad happens to a publisher that Double Fine works with, Double Fine always benefits. Double Fine has managed to get the rights back to Psychonauts after Majesco went down, and they actually have the rights to most of their games at this point.
Yep, it's actually the success of the smaller games that come from the Amnesia Fortnite, which is a tradition that they continue on now. The success of those games has allowed them to go back and buy the rights again, to Psychonauts, like you said, also to Brutal Legend. So, it's not official, but there may be a Brutal Legend 2 coming at some point.
And something that is official, Psychonauts.
Psychonauts 2, yes. There is a Psychonauts 2. There's actually also a Psychonauts in the Rhombus of Ruin, which will be releasing very shortly for PlayStation VR.
Very exciting.
So that's something that...
It's kind of one of those things that if you don't already, then it kind of makes you believe in God. Like, there's no way this should have happened. Psychonauts was not a commercial success.
Nope.
And it only became kind of a commercial success when they got the rights back to it.
Yep.
And then they put it up for sale on, was it a GOG bundle or a Humble
It was
bundle?
a Humble bundle.
And you pay what you want.
Mm-hmm.
And
people wanted to pay for it.
In like the first week, they made more money than they did during the entire run of Psychonauts originally.
One source I found said that they've sold 1.7 million copies of it since they retained the rights.
Unbelievable.
So the Majesco people must be furious right now.
There are no Majesco people. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So another game that they got the rights back to after THQ shut its doors.
Yep.
Costume Quest.
So yes, we're going back to Halloween again. Sorry.
We're not apologizing here at Without Parole Games. We love Halloween. It's going to be Halloween year round. Cue the lightning.
I thought you said you weren't doing anything.
Thank you. That takes care of that.
It's the production quality people really admire most about what we do here.
It's really not. It better not be. Otherwise, we're screwed. Costume Quest, unlike every game that comes out these days, it took less than a year to develop.
Yep.
That's unbelievable. It takes place on Halloween. It's cartoony with cel-shaded characters. We've talked about how much we love cel-shaded stuff because we never see it anymore. All the characters, especially the children, they're like these little adorable characters with big heads and even bigger eyes.
Yep.
They're just unbelievably cute. And then there's Ren and Reynold, who are the two main characters. They are twins, boy and girl. And at the very beginning of the game, you set out to go trick or treating, and they're like, "Oh, I wanna be in, well, as brothers and sisters always do, or siblings always do.
Yep.
They're like, well, I wanna, be in control, or this or that." And then you eventually take control of the mother's hand, pointing to them, saying, which one of you is going to take the lead on trick or treating, and you choose which character you want to play.
Right. which was a nice like natural way to like choose your gender of the character you wanted to play.
Exactly.
It's you've really subtly done, not making a big deal out of it. Yeah.
And whatever character you don't play as gets abducted. Like just soon after you're out trick or treating, you knock on a door and this guy grabs you and runs off. And the rest of the game is you trying to rescue your twin sibling. God, I don't even know where to start. This is just an adorable game. It is an action RPG, which, I mean, there's not enough of those. I love that. So you knock on doors and you kind of open up side quests, and in accomplishing those side quests, each of them will give you a hint to the location of your sibling.
Right.
So candy is your currency, and okay, you know what? I'm wasting time. What's the coolest thing about this game is that all the kids have costumes on. It's called Costume Quest, and all the costumes are definitely what you'd see kids wearing, like little kids.
Oh, they're
like
homemade cardboard,
exactly,
paper,
taped together. And one kid has like a little robot costume on. It's blue, and like the face is cut out almost like a TV. And it's just super ghetto, but it's adorable. And then you go into your first battle. And that's what happens.
It's so great.
The kids transform into like that little robot, turn into like this mega kind of realistic, still cel shaded, realistic transformer.
Right. It's like what the kid, if you remember what it was like to be a kid, or if you're around kids, it's how awesome the kid actually thinks they look in the robot costume. That's what's happening. So the crappy little cardboard costume turns into, mobile Gundam armor. That's
a better way of saying it than transformer. The kid wearing a medieval sweater suddenly becomes this huge knight with a sword and a shield, and it's just unbelievable stuff. And they're so big that when they're battling, the town is all small around them, little trees and little houses and stuff. It just gives you a sense of scale. And when you're just running around as a normal, as a kid exploring, you have like your little sack of candy, and you just bash everything with it. You just hit everything, and you try to, and you find stuff, items and candy hidden around the neighborhood.
If you played a Lego game, it's the same strategy. Can I break it? Yes, then break it.
Yep, exactly. You hit the park bench, hit the mailbox, and maybe candy will pop out. The downside is that there is a sequel to this game. It's been sitting on my console for the better part of probably 2 years. I haven't even started it.
Okay.
Which is ridiculous because I enjoyed the first game so much. I haven't gotten around to this. But this is a no-brainer. This is actually the reason it took them less than a year to make this game is because they actually built it on Brutal Legends engine.
Oh, I didn't know.
So the groundwork was kind of already done for them. It's pretty awesome.
The only criticism I have about Costume Quest, and it's kind of a minor one, but it's sort of important. This was like I started playing this game. Like, this is fantastic. I want my kids to play it. The content is fantastic for kids. There's nothing offensive, but there is a lot of reading.
Oh, there's a lot.
There's not really any voice acting. So, like for my older child, she would have no problem with it. But my younger child, who's still kind of wrestling with the whole reading thing, there's a lot of text. So it's kind of one of those like, who is this really for? Because if it wasn't so text heavy, my son would be playing that as we speak right now.
I'll tell you who it's for.
This guy. It is kind of for us. It definitely recaptures that sort of innocence and feeling of how awesome trick-or-treating is and Halloween night is. Something we should have brought up during our spooky games, but it's not really spooky at all.
No.
It's a Halloween game. No question about it.
Definitely.
That's me again.
It is you, which is fantastic.
So going back to speaking about spooky games, I guess it's sort of spooky. The Cave.
Oh yeah.
Now, so far I've talked about two games that were Tim Schafer was the kind of main mind behind it. This actually comes from Ron Gilbert.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, if you watched our LucasArts game, you've probably heard that name a couple of times. He was the guy behind Maniac Mansion, Night of the Tentacle, the first couple Monkey Island games. If you played a LucasArts adventure game, you have experienced the fruits of Ron Gilbert's labor.
And they're sweet fruits.
They are sweet fruits. The Cave comes from an idea he actually had while he was a developer at LucasArts. He wanted to make this idea where the characters could go in and kind of explore like the darkest parts of their personality and their backstory.
Great characters too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And So he really, in some ways, it's kind of like a retread of that sort of idea. You have 7 characters that represent sort of 7, fictional archetypes. There's the time traveler, the adventurer, the knight, the twins, the monk, the scientist, and I knew I was gonna come. I can do this without looking at my notes. Who am I missing? The hillbilly. Yeah.
I would not have gotten that.
And to go into the cave and to enter the cave, you need to pick 3 of those characters.
Yeah, this is Maniac Mansion all over the place.
It really is. Yeah. It definitely has a lot from that. But what's also nice is the way the levels are designed. The 3 characters have their own stories and own sections that only they can unlock.
Absolutely.
But so it's not like, okay, I play with these 3 characters and I play it again and it's like 95% the same and 5% different. No, there's actually a very different game experience depending on which 3 characters you pick.
Yeah.
There was 3 design ideas he really wanted to keep. He wanted people to play through with 3 characters.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to be a combination of platforming and puzzle.
Nailed it.
And then he wanted no inventory.
Oh, because they can only carry one thing at a time.
They can only carry one thing at a time.
That drove me nuts.
Yeah, but the idea was he didn't want people to be worried about inventory management. Like, oh, Gary, I'm gonna pick up this, fishing rod and not use it for another 6 hours. The idea is the thing is in your character's hand more as a reminder of, hey, you're working on something now.
Right.
And the platforming element, he wanted it to be there so that it avoids some of the problems with like games like Monkey Island is like, oh, I have to go back these 5 screens, to go back to the thing I want. With the platforming, it's not like a super punishing platforming. There's very few ways for you to die if you misjump, and even if you do, you just kind of like reset right away.
And the best part is every time you die, the cave, who's the narrator, the cave
Yes.
itself is going, well, don't worry, you can't die in this game.
Yeah.
And it breaks the 4th wall.
Yeah.
And then if you die too many times, he starts saying, I think they're dying on purpose now. It's just hilarious.
But there's even a little more of an edge. It's like basically like, I won't allow you to die yet.
Right.
And that's the other thing is the characters you play don't have any spoken lines.
Mm-hmm.
You're really trying to explore who they are and find out their stories, and most of their stories end up being pretty dark. But the cave does have all the lines and is the narrator and is hilarious, darkly hilarious,
really well written.
Yeah, it really plays this edge between, oh, that's funny, ooh, there's something like Twilight Zone-y creepy going on too. What if you like the adventure style games that we've talked about kind of to death? This is definitely the newest version of that. You can play this now, pretty much anything that has a screen on it. It's iOS, it's
Some
Android.
of these games just been ported to death.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is one where it works. It works pretty much on any of these systems. I think adventure games should be having a resurgence with these. We have these mobile games where we play for 2 minutes and put down. This is the type of game that's perfect for that.
Yeah. And games like Maniac Mansion could be overly convoluted because you end up with like 50,000 things in your inventory, and then you end up someplace and you're like, what am I supposed to use on this?
Yeah.
And you just start like, going through use blank on blank, use blank on blank. And it's just this trial and error. It can definitely be, boring.
Yeah.
But the cave, like you said, no inventory. So you're dealing with one thing at a time. And, man, I don't know. I was watching a video today and it brought back so many memories of playing this game. Because when you first go down into the cave, you're running through and you're going in, and there's a cave gift shop.
Yes.
And I was like, and this just reeks of Double Fine. Like
the second they give, the first time I played it, I was like, okay, this is great. Oh, the opening and narration is kind of interesting and funny. But the second I hit the gift shop, like, these are my people.
Yeah.
This is exactly what I signed up
Monkey
for.
Island. Like it's just so over the top. You gotta love it.
Yeah.
Like, who is it? Stan, who's always trying to sell you a used boat in Monkey Island.
Yes.
Loved it. Absolutely loved it.
And so the only other thing I would add is, if you really want that like deep, 100-hour long adventure game, this isn't that.
No.
It's very deliberately made for kind of a newer generation of the game. It still has some of the flavor. Like there are still puzzles you're going to be bashing your head against for a little bit.
Oh yeah.
But not like it used to be where, it's a shorter game. But I think with the choice to pick 3 different characters every time you go through, it definitely has a lot of replay value. And strongly endorse.
Now, where the cave is sort of the evolution of the LucasArts puzzle games.
Yes.
Graphic adventures. Broken Age. Broken Age is the most Lucasfilm graphic adventure game of all of these titles.
Okay.
Because it is through and through a Lucasfilm graphic adventure game.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Was this the Kickstarter one?
This is the Kickstarter
okay.
one. They wanted. Oh God, I have it. Their goal was $400,000 in a month.
Pretty respectable.
And they reached $3.5 million in that month.
That better be a goddamn good game.
It is good. It is good. The storytelling. Here's my problem with it is that I'm too old. My ADD kicks in, and I've said this before, even on the Lucasfilm episode. I don't have the patience to try to stick out the puzzles and solve them on my own.
Yeah.
I end up going to YouTube and just kind of cheating my way through it. And at that point, you go, well, why didn't you just watch it on YouTube to begin with? Because I buy everything Double Fine puts out. That's the answer.
It's a good answer.
Yeah. This was kickstarted as just a Double Fine adventure game, like no title. It's like, oh, Double Fine's making an adventure game. We'll throw money at that.
Which tells you right off the bat, if you don't know this publisher or this developer, the
crazy.
fact that they had that Kickstarter and they said, we only need $400,000. We want to make a project. We don't even know what it is yet.
Yeah.
And then, what was it, 3.5 or
$3.5 million.
And they got $3.5 million. That's how much trust their audience has them. Yeah. Like, we don't know what you're doing, but take all my money.
Are they making Thimbleweed Park? Why didn't I do research on this? I'll come back. Thimbleweed Park.
It's not like we had an extra month to do research on this episode.
I don't want to talk about it. So Broken Age follows two teenagers. One of them is named Vela, and she's voiced by Masia Moyo. I'm going to screw all these names up. But more importantly, there's Shay, who is voiced by Elijah Wood, somebody I've actually heard of. Vela is supposed to be sacrificed.
Little guy.
Yeah.
The furry feet.
Oh, no. Yes. I mean, yes. But no. I mean, he's in Wilfred.
Oh, yeah. Furry feet. Oh, no. His friend has the furry feet in Wilfred.
Wilfred has furry feet. Yeah. Elijah Wood. Good stuff. But Vela the girl, she's... So you start off and you actually get to choose which character you want to play as. And the great thing is that at any point in the game, for the most part, you get to switch back and forth. These two characters seemingly have nothing in common with each other.
Huh.
Vela, her story takes place in this town, very old school, like not a lot of advancement in technology, and she's supposed to be sacrificed to this big beast to save the town. It's a thing they do every 14 years. So poor Vela, she's on her way out.
Yeah.
And then there's Shay, who wakes up in a bed in a spaceship. But it's like the most childlike spaceship ever. Like all of the computers like have they look like toys for 1-year-olds. With big buttons and wheels that spin and do nothing.
I want that spaceship.
It's adorable, and the entire time the spaceship is talking to him, and it's supposed to be like his mother. And, and so she's always telling him, "Oh, don't go in there. That's not safe for you. Why don't you go and play with whatever?"
Right.
And he's and they're constantly. He has this routine he has to do every day, where it's he has to go save these people on this planet, but it's like the same thing every single day. It's like this staged rescue mission that he has to go on every single day. And so there are these two seemingly unconnected stories, which of course eventually connect, and right. And the only time you're forced to play as one character or the other is when you've sort of completed one of their parts.
Okay.
But you can bounce back and forth until you figure out how to complete their storylines.
So does one storyline have an effect on the other? Like, is it
eventually?
Eventually. Okay. So.
Yep. And it looks, as you can see, looks awesome. It looks like a children's book that came to life. And like I said, it is very, very Lucasfilm in design. You walk around, you collect items, you talk to people, you just try to solve puzzles, and it is slow paced.
Yeah.
But the story is awesome.
Yeah, that's definitely one I didn't get full disclosure. I didn't get a chance to play it before we got to this, but it's definitely on my list of stuff I want to check out because it looks gorgeous. And now, does it have It seems from what I've seen, it runs a little more serious than some of the games. Is there as much of a? I mean, there's the ship and things like that. But
it is a dark sense of humor.
Okay.
It is having right away where Vela's supposed to be sacrificed.
Right.
You're standing there with these other girls, and you're kind of supposed to be competing with them to be the one who the monster decides to eat. but it's got that Tim Schafer humor the whole time, where she's like this isn't right, and she's like, and it's dark and it's creepy, but it's funny.
Okay, all right, so. Because I would say, like Brutal Legend, I mean, you start with your character getting killed by a piece of set falling on you. So that's but it's very specific. This is a humor game.
Yeah.
Psychonauts is pretty much a humor game. So is this got the same kind of idea? Or
yes.
Okay.
Yes. Right. But I'm gonna call it extremely emotional as well.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. It definitely pulls at some heartstrings. There's talks about relationships with especially I think your relationships with parents. Like if you haven't had a good one of those, then you might find something to relate to here. Okay. Yeah. And just to wrap this up quickly, because I feel like we're probably running long, as we always do. There are so many strange things that Double Fine makes. So we're going to throw up a couple honorable mentions.
Yes.
One, you mentioned it already, Sesame Street: Once Upon a Monster.
Yay!
How weird does a company have to be to team up with the Children's Television Workshop and create a Kinect game, an Xbox Kinect game, all motion designed.
One of the only Kinect games worth playing.
Actually, he's absolutely right on that.
It is. It's one of the only ones that, because it was funny. I downloaded this before I realized it was a Double Fine game.
Oh wow!
Because at the time it came out, I had very little ones. Like, oh, a Sesame Street game.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is. They figured it out.
Yeah. Cookie Monster and Elmo you play as with a couple original characters. Yep. You sing, you dance, it's all presented like a storybook. Yep. Absolutely for kids, but designed so that adults can play with them.
Don't think like it's a gaming structure with a plot and all that. It's
mini
activities.
Games.
Yeah, it's mini games. Yeah. But really, really well done. I think one thing Double Fine does overall is just get an idea for a setting, and really get you. Setting isn't the right word for it, but they can put you in a place. So much attention is placed on, the graphic design, the colors, everything, just to get you in that. And you feel like you're in Sesame Street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then the other one I want to talk about real quick is the Playroom, which the Playroom is actually something that Sony designed for their camera system.
Yeah.
But Double Fine did DLC for the Playroom called My Alien Buddy.
I don't know this one at all. Okay.
Yeah, it came out in 2013. You basically consider it an augmented reality game. You get this alien toy. And he comes down in one of those cardboard cutout boxes. You know the boxes that toys come in.
Yeah.
Like action figures and stuff.
Yep.
It's like and you have to shake your controller until the alien finally breaks free of the cardboard, right? And then suddenly he's flying around your living room.
Okay.
Right on the screen, and you're controlling it with your DualShock and flying him around, pointing to where you want to go, and you're just crashing into buildings, knocking stuff over, and you're abducting like livestock.
As you do.
It's like,
awesome. Okay.
It's goofy, but it just shows that Double Fine is just a talented group of people and just absolutely diverse. They're not afraid to take risks, and seemingly every time they do, it pays off.
Yeah, it's at least creatively, if not financially.
Right.
I guess I only had one honorable mention right now. Something I've actually been playing. I picked it up as just I gotta have something to throw in as an honorable mention.
Yeah.
And I've been playing the crap out of this Middle Manager of Justice.
Oh, you mentioned this. I still haven't even seen what it looks like.
It's a mobile game, and it looks like, and it plays like, it is kind of like a freemium sort of game where you're in this setting and you slowly build up your rooms, and there's a premium currency and all this stuff. Like your Simpsons Tapped Out, your Family Guy Quest for Stuff, that sort of, Clash of Clans, that sort of game. But it is a Double Fine version of this. So you have the same really interesting art style, this quirky humor, and unlike a lot of these freemium style games, if you never pay a dime, you're still getting a fun gaming experience. Like, I don't pay any money into these games, and I'm not feeling at all like I'm missing out. Okay. All I'm saying is like, maybe that would have gone a little faster, but it's not like, I have to just grind and do all this stupid stuff because I don't want to pay the $1.99 to get this thing. It's if you like the Double Fine humor and all that, definitely check it out. It's worth a download. But yeah, that's my honorable mention.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Cool. We probably should have started with this, but if you like our channel, make sure you subscribe to Without Parole Games, youtube.com/Without Parole Games.
Correction notes.
Right down there. It's somewhere around here, this area. And also, we are a Patreon-supported show, which means I can't imagine we must be in the red quite substantially if we're Patreon-supported, because we have one person contributing.
Hey,
Thank you for doing that, sir. If you feel like supporting the show, patreon.com/Without Parole Games. That will be your donation destination. And we will absolutely start creating perks for our Patreon supporters. Just right now, we're at max capacity. 6 shows a week we're doing.
Woo!
Yeah.
He's doing. I get to come in for this one. And
Thanks for doing it.
I'm just the talent.
Well, you certainly are. So we got to move on. Next week we'll be back to talk about something else that you hopefully enjoy. But for this week, my name is Brian Paul.
And my name is still Desra.
And we'll see you next week.
Bye.